Good morning, everyone. Well, at least it's morning here when I'm recording this. This is the long-awaited podcast episode, and I never thought that I would record something like this, but alas, we're here. And before we get into the topic, which is Hinge, dating, actually going through the dating cycle post-college, before we get into that entire subject, I'm going to do the high-low Buffalo segment that I always do so that I can ease into the topic. So from the past week, my high was I went to the most interesting and fun dinner last night. I went to 2 of them. So at UCLA, we have this tradition every single year called Dinner with 12 Strangers. And you basically meet 12 UCLA Bruins that you've never met, preferably. And you have dinner with them. You get to know them, and it's from all ages. It's alumni to people in college still, and it's really cool. I've never done it before. This is my first time, and I definitely want to do it again. Really last-minute decision to do this. But it was in Brooklyn. It was a 45-minute subway track. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It took me 45 minutes to get there. And I went with Tiff, my roommate, and we just literally an hour before the event decided to go. And it was at an architect's home. And it was so fun. I got free sushi, and it was handmade by the wife of the architect. The food was so good. It was traditional Japanese food. There's dessert. There was a charcuterie board. It was so yummy. There was red wine, white wine, milk tea, sparkling water. It was just so good. And let me just say, if you love homes and home construction, home decor, all of that, you should check out architects' homes, because they, all their life have been working on other people's homes. And when it comes to their own home, they really know how to put a lot of detail and attention to things that you wouldn't even think of. And they really push the boundary of what you could do with a home. And it was so cool. This home was living in New York is already expensive, but this was a 3-4 story home with a trampoline, a rock climbing wall, a freaking piece of a tree in the entire apartment. It was just so well done. The stairs there's concrete stairs, there's also wood stairs, and then there's a part of the staircase that was clear glass, so you can look down and see the lower floors. Some of the walls were painted complete black. It was just insane, and I loved it so much. So that was my high. And for my low, I went, also another last minute decision, but Saturday I went out for the day, and I got back pretty late, 10:30, and my friends were planning to go out. And I was really in between whether or not I should go out, but they convinced me. They're it would be fun and we won't go out for too late. And we went to Wiggle Room, which is a club in East Village. The line was so long. It was so cold outside. And I was wearing a puffer jacket, but the wind was just going straight through it. And I just felt a draft around my chest area, which was not fun at all. And we waited in line for an hour before we got in. And then once we got in, the music sucked. No offense to anyone who likes techno, but I just cannot dance to techno. Techno is music I would put in the background if I were doing work, and I'm not trying to vibe and dance and whatever. And I tried really hard to not make myself seem like I wasn't enjoying the music and the environment in general. It's just so crowded. And usually when I go to clubs, I won't care that it's crowded. I will actually move towards the crowd, and I'll try to get into crowded areas so that I'm where the party is at. But in this scenario, it was just so apparent to me how crowded it was and stuffy everything was. So I felt really nervous because I was scared I was going to have like a panic attack because I'm claustrophobic. So that was not fun. And I was also joining a friend group. So I was like the plus one in a way. Me not having a good time is just really, I felt like was not a good idea because, you know, I'm not the person that they're there for. Like, I was just tagging along and I really didn't want to ruin that group's night. So I just didn't say anything. But yeah, so that was my experience on Saturday. It was one of the worst going out nights I've ever had in New York. I just really wanted to get back home as soon as possible, and I didn't end up getting back till like 3 a.m. So, and for Buffalo, this one's super short and just really random, but I was in the subway on the way back from the 12 Strangers dinner, and this is one of those, like, you know, only in New York stories. Tiff and one of the girls that we had met at the dinner, we were all sitting in the subway on the way back, and some homeless people, like 2 of them, I think one of them was like, he had a trailing smell, and it was just like really bad. Just, it was hard to like sit in that subway train, and I think he was like shitting himself because he had like a bag underneath his pants. And then there was a girl who was at the corner, and she was like crouching down, she started peeing, and there was just like pee running down the side of the cart. It was just such a very New York, very weird experience. And yeah, that was my Buffalo. Now on to the really fun part. Let me just say, like I said, this was just an experiment. I downloaded Hinge for some context less than a week ago, and I'm ready to delete the app. I'm ready to delete my profile from Hinge. I am tired, and you'll see exactly why. I'll go into more of it in a second. More context, I haven't dated. It's been a year and a half, I think exactly a year and a half since I've last dated someone, like properly dated someone. I started dating again, like, you know, meeting people, testing things out, talking to people 6 months ago. I want to say 5 months ago. So yeah, I already went through the talking first date phase and like figuring that out again. And before those 6 months, I intentionally decided not to date anybody. I was just trying to enjoy my senior year. I wanted to focus on myself, have fun, maximize my college experience. So I really avoided guys. I did not look at anyone that way. Yeah, so that's a little bit of context. But last week I downloaded Hinge. My friends helped me create my profile. I will probably post a whole video about this, and you guys will see like that whole process. So check that out on YouTube whenever it comes out. I did this just for like shits and giggles to see what it's like and just to like date strangers, because in the past I was dating mutuals, so I had a lot of context on the type of person. But in this case, obviously, these are people I don't know at all, and I could totally be caught off guard, learn about things about these people that I wouldn't have expected. So I went through that experience, and now you guys are fully benefiting by getting to hear exactly what happened. But yeah, so I was talking to a few people at the same time, I think like 4 or 5 people at the same time, and I pick and chose the people that I decided to talk to because some of them didn't start the conversation first, but I wasn't that attractive or into them, so I never started anything. And then there's some people that talked to me first. I talked to everyone who talked to me first. And then there's some people that I found more attractive and I was into more, so I would talk to them first. Yeah, so I'll just go through different scenarios that I had. So one of the scenarios was like someone that talked to me first. They started the conversation like very meh, like boring, like basically saying hi. And this happened like basically Saturday night when I was out at the club and I was just like not having a good time. And he was not having a good time as well, and he was at a bar that he didn't like. So we were like bonding over that experience. And then he sent me his phone number. So then we kept talking there over message. But then my phone died. So then the next day I ended up continuing the message. And then he ghosted me. And I was just like so confused. And this happens a lot, apparently, on dating apps. And I learned this very quickly because, it just kept happening, and you'll see in a second. But I really don't have friends that had ever used dating apps or used it frequently enough to give me advice. So I was really going into this very much alone. There's that. And it confused me a lot because I was like, why would you give me your phone number, text me 1 or 2 times, and then I continue it the next day, but then you don't even continue it? And no, it wasn't. I don't think it was because he was too drunk or something, because we started texting at 6 p.m. So it's you weren't he definitely wasn't drunk at 6, I don't think. Some context. But yeah, this guy, he's in IB, investment banking. He's around my age. He went to college in the East Coast, and he was just very normal. I don't know. And he was 6 foot something, 6'3". And no, I don't have a height requirement where they have to be at least 6 foot like most girls. I actually prefer if they're shorter than 6 feet, because I'm 5 foot tall and I don't want a tower. I don't want to be dating a tower. There's a lot of awkward things with dating people who are really tall when you're really short. I don't get why girls are obsessed with dating really tall guys, because it's just really awkward for me. But anyways, side note, another one that was notable. He talked to me first. I think he was 5'10", 5'11". Okay, so the first guy was black. This guy is Middle Eastern. I think he was also in business as well. I can't remember. He was very normal. His profile, very typical, bro-y. He had really good fashion sense, which was a perk. I really like when guys dress well. I really like people who are able to banter back and forth, are pretty flirtatious. And he responded to one of my prompts, and one of my prompts was 2 truths and a lie. And one of the 2 truths and a lie was that I can fly planes. And he basically was whether or not I could fly a plane. And I said, I can't fly a plane. And he's like, damn, how are we going to get anywhere? And I was like, yeah, I know it's a deal breaker. The way I'm saying this is so weird. But then he asked me what I was looking for. And I said, I'm looking for a long-term relationship, but I don't know if it's going to be through a dating app that I find someone. I'm just testing dating apps right now. So eventually the conversation led to, how long we want to stay in New York and where we want to settle down. And I was saying I don't really want to settle down in New York for sure. I would consider California to settle down, but I'm also really interested in just traveling a lot. And he was saying, oh, where do you want to travel? And then this is where things got a little bit weird, because he said, maybe I'll follow you, winky face. And that comment by itself was just a little bit too much for me for many reasons. And one being, I just don't like when the winky face is actually used, seriously used in conversation and not as a joke. When he said, maybe I'll follow you, I just don't find that attractive. I just don't want somebody to follow me, and I don't want to follow somebody else. So I really was just a little bit creeped out about it. So then that was where I drew the line, and I ended up doing something that I know is pretty hypocritical. I just ghosted him, and I'm over here talking about how I don't like when people ghost me, but I ghosted him for that reason. The last story, the cherry on the top. I matched with somebody else who's talked to me first. He definitely had the best conversation with me. He did a really good job of not making things awkward and keeping it really fun. One of the prompts on my profile is, my love language is free food. And he responded to it and said, when can I provide the free food? That pretty much just led me to just continue it by choosing a date and a time for us to meet, because at this point, I was just like, I kind of just want to go on a date, and I really don't like texting people, especially when I barely know them, because there's not a lot of chemistry you can have over text message, I think. And I'd rather just meet a person in person and then text from there, because then we have like context to build off of. So we were pretty much trying to plan the date, and we agreed on Friday. Both of us were pretty unresponsive to each other. We would text like once or twice each day. And then it was like Wednesday when he like stopped texting me or messaging me on the app, and then Thursday the entire day he just didn't respond to me. So then I was like, like he just probably just ghosted me, and like things didn't work out, which is kind of weird, but like whatever. And then Friday I was just like, is this happening? Like it was just weird because it was supposed to happen on Friday. So then I was like, did he actually ghost me, or are we actually going to hang out? So then Friday I just kept my expectations like extremely low, and I was just like, it's not happening tonight, and I'm going to hang out with my friends. Like it's not gonna happen. And then 4-ish p.m. he like texts me, and he's like, he actually DMs me because I have Instagram, and he says like, are we still down for tonight? And I was like, yeah, I'm down, which is so annoying because it was so last minute. And men just like, not all men, I'm not trying to stereotype, but most men from my experience so far just do everything so last minute. Both of us were just so stubborn, and we did not want to cave in to each other's like suggestions, because he wanted me to meet him in Brooklyn, which is a trek, but then I wanted him to meet me in Manhattan, preferably my area, and that's a trek for him. And we were pretty much like being really stubborn about it. And it was kind of interesting to me because I was like thinking to myself, if we're going to play a game of who will put in the less effort for each other, like I will definitely win. I have a track record of putting in minimal effort for guys. So we went back and forth, and this is like really late into the night. We get to like 9 o'clock, and we agreed to meet at 9:30. And like he texts me, and he's like, yeah, so I won't be able to do 9:30. I'll basically be able to do 10. But then he was like, but 10 might not actually work because I barely just got back home. And he like finally explained why he's been not responding and why he's like pushing the plans back. And he was like, I literally just got back from work. I've been swamped all week. And I was like, damn, that's actually so sad. I obviously don't know whether or not he's putting on an act, or if he actually was like busy from work this entire week. And also it's hard for me to like take it fully, because sending a text really doesn't take that long. Like I've had days where I've been so swamped, so busy, but like I still find time to like text people and give them 1 or 2 minutes of my time. It's really not that hard to send a message. So I don't really know if I can take that as a proper excuse. But yeah, anyways, so then it's like around 9:30ish. And we're just going back and forth, and he's taking forever to respond. Like, I have my ringer on, so I'm, like, responding really fast because I'm just like, what is happening tonight? I can't just wait around for you. And then he's, like, taking, like, 10, 15 minutes to respond, which is really annoying when you're kind of, you know, waiting around and trying to make plans with somebody. Long story short, he ends up saying, I'm just so tired. Mikey and Tiff sends him a voice memo because they're drunk. I was playing puzzles with them. We were doing a drunk game night, and they were playing puzzles, and they wanted to like send him a voice memo, and they were like, hey, like come out, like it'll be really fun. And then he was like, oh, I still need more convincing. So I sent a voice memo, which is, I feel like, pretty intimate, not normal to like do that early on, and especially with a stranger. But I still sent it anyways, and I wasn't drunk, by the way. And then he was like, maybe the fact that he just like never committed was really difficult because it was always on the fence, so I never knew what was going on for sure. And then finally he just like 20 minutes later he sends a text message, and this is like it's like almost 11 o'clock, and he's like, I'm just so swamped, but if you want to come to Williamsburg, ... And I was like, I was like, are you serious? So I told my friends, I was like, yeah, like he still wants me to come to Williamsburg. And then for some reason, they were like, I'm down. We'll go with you, Annie. We'll stay at a bar next to you and we'll let you like go do your thing and then you can just come back to us, which is so sweet. Going there by myself is like a whole thing. It's like pretty unsafe. It was already really late at night. You know, the fact that my friends really want to go and they're like down to go with me is so nice. So I texted him and I was like, okay, I'll go to Williamsburg. And then I said something that I really is just so out of pocket for me, but I only said it because Mikey was like, you should make it really obvious that you want to see him. And like, I just don't do that kind of thing. I'm like not somebody who will like directly tell someone that I'm interested in them, or like usually I don't compliment people. I mean, I don't usually compliment guys directly. It's just something I just don't do. My way of like showing affection is very like tough love, like very flirty, teasing like in a way. So this was really weird, but I sent him like, I'll go only because you're cute. And I like literally almost threw up in my mouth like when I sent that, but like whatever, I sent it. And I said that, but on the, this is the second text I said, but on the condition that after we hang out, like you should meet my friends because they just want to meet you. And then he ghosted me. That was it. Like he didn't respond the entire night. And I, thank God, didn't leave to Brooklyn. That would have been just so bad. So I never left. And I think after going through that whole thing and like looking back on like what happened, I definitely think he just wanted to hook up and that was his intentions. And I didn't ask him like what his intentions were for a few reasons. So my original plan was to text him as soon as possible before we hung out what his intentions were. Like, was he looking for just a hookup? Because if that was what he was looking for, I was not going to give him that. And I wanted to make it clear so that we were both not wasting our time. But I didn't end up sending it because he ghosted me Wednesday and Thursday. And then Friday was just like really out of the blue and so last minute that I just didn't have time to like even ask. But then also I ended up meeting with a friend before I was going to meet up with him. And she's been on the dating apps and she has done it for many months and she's probably the most experienced friend that I know. And I asked her about that. I was like, should I ask him if he wants to hook up, if that's his intentions? And she was like, I really recommend like not doing that just because it comes off, it could be kind of offensive and it could be really forward because some guys are actually just, you know, trying to meet people. And like, if you ask that, it's pretty like forceful and like overstepping in a way. And I was like, okay, like that's fair. I've never done this before. I've never used dating apps. So like she was like someone I quote unquote looked up to in when it came to like this area. I really should have just asked. I'm pretty sure his answer would have been to hook up. And I know like it was a pretty big ask for like the first date to have him meet my friends. It's a lot of pressure. I know like I would freak out if I were in his shoes, if I had to meet with his friends. But in a way, it was like me kind of protecting myself because if it were to be a hookup, like I had an out where I could just be like I'm going to my friends. Like, do you want to meet my friends? So that like, it didn't end up being a hookup. Especially since it was just so late at night. I was like, what else are we going to do besides hooking up? So yeah, the most like painful thing was just having certain expectations and having those expectations just be completely wrong. So here are a list of things I just did not expect from using Hinge. Like, I don't know if this applies to Tinder or any other dating app, but first off, how much work goes into actually using the dating app? In the beginning, I expected it to be a lot of work to just set up the profile. Like, I thought that was the most work that you had to put into it. And then the easy part was just swiping on people and then like talking, then meeting up with them. But no, it's actually a crap ton of work from the beginning to the end. The profile setup is like a lot because it's like, how do you properly represent yourself and like show the best version of yourself so that, you know, people find you attractive and you actually match with people. And then the other part is talking to people. And talking to people is a whole thing because you meet weirdos, you meet people who ghost you, you meet people who just don't continue the conversation that well. You don't know really how to start conversations when it comes to like swiping on people's profiles. Sometimes like you're literally competing with other people who are also swiping on them, and you know, some people like can't just respond to everybody, so it's like you have to stand out against the crowd, and like figuring out what to say without being like too much creepy or weird. All of that is a lot of work, and sometimes it takes a lot of work to just like think about that. And then like you wait to get matched, and then when you get matched, you have to like maintain like multiple conversations. Eventually you somehow go on a date, and it's like the risk of the date, it's like, are they somebody that's going to be creepy? Like, is it going to be safe? Figuring that out, and also planning the date itself. And during this entire like process, like you don't even know if this person's going to ghost you at any time. You don't know if they're going to catch you off guard. You have to do your own I recommend doing your own research. That's what I did, at least, on each person that I ended up talking to, so that I knew that I wasn't getting catfished, and that like I knew what I was getting myself into, and I had more context. Like this whole thing, oh my God, it's just so much work, to the point where I'm just like, you know what, it's actually honestly way more worth it for me to just meet a stranger and like go up to them, grow some balls, and just like talk to them, and hopefully it leads to something. That work that goes into doing in person is way less and less risky and like less painful than doing it on a dating profile, which is something I really didn't expect to say at the end of this. And then something else is, before you download this app, it's like actually super important that you don't rely on male validation or female validation. I am like proud enough to say that I have worked my way up to the point where I have a strong foundation to like fall back on. It's like not the strongest, obviously, like it caught me off guard, and it was confusing and like painful to navigate getting ghosted and things like that. Like it was just really weird, and like I really didn't know what that meant, but at the same time I was still pretty good. Like I wasn't that upset when things just didn't work out. I was just mainly confused. That's when I realized you're gonna be talking to a million people or just multiple people, and these conversations can go multiple ways, and like it's pretty likely that you can get hurt from the conversation not going well, people ghosting you, you not getting matched with majority of the people that you swiped on. That's something that I felt like was really necessary. Like it's actually pretty painful to use this app. It can really ruin your ego and your self-esteem and your self-worth if you don't have a strong foundation. And lastly, something I didn't expect is Hinge versus Tinder. So Tinder has a reputation for having people who are mainly looking to hook up. Like, yes, you're going to have people who want other things, but it's mainly a hookup app. But then Hinge is mainly an app known for dating somebody and getting to know people. People still use Hinge to hook up, but it's mainly for dating. That makes it way more confusing. I thought I was doing myself service by downloading Hinge and not downloading Tinder because I was looking to not hook up. And what I realized is, because there's still a pretty good chance that there are people looking to hook up, like you pretty much don't know what people's intentions are unless they say it on their profile or they tell you. So every time I was talking to somebody, I was like, is this person looking to hook up or not? And like I wanted to ask every single time. So that was really confusing because I had to read into everyone's messages and be like, is your intention to hook up, or are you actually looking to like meet me and like date? And that leads to advice. So, take this with a grain of salt again, because I've only used Hinge, and also I've used it for literally less than a week and it's been terrible. But first is just ask what their intentions are. Not the first question, but like after you realize like they're kind of normal and the banter is pretty good and you like the conversation, like then before you meet them, like please ask what their intentions are. If you yourself know that you want a certain thing from this app. Like, if you know you want not a hookup, if you want to date somebody, like, ask the intention right away so you're not wasting your time. And it's going to be a little bit awkward, yes, to ask such a forward question, but you know, your time and energy is worth way more than that. So just get over with it. Obviously, their answer could be a lie, which would be terrible, but at least you could have like some kind of filter for a majority of the people. The second thing is set boundaries so you don't overdo it. And when I say boundaries, I mean boundaries for using the app. Especially if you're somebody who can be easily hurt from using the app, I would definitely say, like, before you get onto the app, tell yourself, like, I'm only going to open it for an hour a day. Like, set a time limit on it. I'm only going to open it after work or something like that. Or I'm only going to talk to one person at a time so I'm not overwhelmed. Like, whatever boundaries you need to set so that you are not crying and like mentally in a really bad state at the end. Like, set those boundaries. It's really important because once you get into the app, it's pretty easy to get addicted. It didn't really happen to me this time because I knew I've actually downloaded Hinge before, but I did it for like complete shits and giggles. Like, I was just doing it to like swipe on people and just to see what, you know, who was in the city. And I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't go on dates with anybody when I downloaded it the first time a while ago. And that's where I realized, like, oh, whoa, it's like pretty addicting. Like, you can spend a good amount of time like swiping on people every day on this app. Coming into it this time, I really detached myself from the app and I took it really slow with like responding to people. The other piece of advice is you should work on yourself before you download a dating app. It's like a whole beast. Like, I feel like it's really important to do this so that you don't take things personally, because everyone's doing it left and right. Like, it's hard to keep up a lot of conversations, so they're going to pick out the conversations or the people that they find that they're most into, and they're going to continue those, but they're going to ghost or like completely just, you know, avoid conversations with people they aren't that into. And like, you cannot take offense to that because we are all living, you know, busy lives and have other things to prioritize, and we're all meeting strangers. So when you're meeting a stranger, you're not going to put in that much effort to get to know them. You really don't know what you're expecting. Like, I would put in a crap ton of effort to meet with my close friends, right? But I would do jack shit for a stranger. I'd rather give that time to somebody else. And that's just general laws in physics for humans, right? So you can't take it personally, but sometimes you can't help but take it personally, which is why it's important that you work on yourself beforehand so that you have a strong foundation. And that could be done in a million ways, but highly recommend doing that. I should probably do an entire episode on like how to validate yourself and how to build your own self-esteem so you don't, you know, rely on others. But anyways, moving on. The very last piece of advice is do your research. I found out that a lot of people, like, it varies, guys and girls, a lot of people don't do research and a lot of people do. So I would recommend being on the side of doing research and like searching them up on LinkedIn, searching them up on as many social media platforms as you can find, like anything on them. It's pretty easy. If you have their school, their career, and their name, you can pretty much find anybody. And if you can't find them, like, ask friends to help you find them. Stay anonymous while you do this so that they don't get creeped out that you're like looking them up. I did this so that I just didn't freaking get catfished. Because let me just say, I've gotten catfished and it's only been less than a week, and their Hinge profile was completely different than their other profiles. And thank God I did the research, because after seeing their social media, I was like, okay, like, I can do this. Like, they might be extremely different than their Hinge profile, but like, I'm like fine with it. If I hadn't done that and I had just met them, I would have really been caught off guard. I felt like I've been talking for a while, and as you can tell, again, I still have like half a voice. I've lost it from this past weekend. I think I've just been sick for the past week. Anyways, Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. I don't know if I'm going to keep the app or not, so I'll keep you guys updated. This might be the only episode I have on dating on Hinge, but we'll see. Anyways, bye.